You believe that life itself can hurt the human body. That means our emotional wellness have an effect on our physical wellness. I've been studying that a while now, and I've encompassed that both into my business. Wellness Matters, which is our physical wellness, and I represent activation products. And also, I'm an affiliate with a back brace that I found that is fantastic, and emotional wellness. And I became affiliated with emotional wellness when I lost a child at 15. And in fact, she took her life and had been through a horrible divorce that's gone on and on for years and years, the after effects of that. And being in that sustained trauma and grief, I recognized the physical effects that has on our body. So speaking about supplements or activation or some ailing factor that you have in your body is not enough. And the other day, I picked up this book by Greg Braden. I just felt compelled to buy it. And I have a number of his books, and I've followed him. He's one of my thought mentors, and he's amazing. And this is a little bit of an older book. And actually, I found it in the Unity bookstore, Secrets of the Lost Mode of Prayer. And it actually is talking about indigenous people. He does a lot with, he was an archaeologist, and he's an incredible scientist and goes to the origins of things. And he started recognizing really with the indigenous people and such that there's another element of prayer. So we've been talking a lot about manifestation and intention, and it is the feeling part of desire, the feeling part as if this has already happened. Let's say a rain dance. Think back to when everything had to be sustained in your own environment or you wouldn't survive. What did they have? They had special rain dances and rain rituals. And they were able and more connected to our earth. And this has fascinated him. And as I'm reading this book, and that part of it really fascinated me. However, then he has a chapter called The Hurt That Kills. Now, I've been talking to a lot of hurting women lately. I do also talk with men, but I'm focusing my business on women. The hurt that kills. A growing body of evidence from leading edge researchers. Remember, he's a scientist. He doesn't just speculate about things, he researches things. And even though there are other elements going on, he looks for the data and the science to back it up. And that's one thing I love about him because I know when it came out, there's right now, there's just the marriage between philosophy and science has been closer and closer. And because we have learned more and found other techniques to measure things. So he says that researchers suggest that life itself can lead to the failure of the body. I'm going to read to you. I don't usually like to do that, but I want you to know how specific this is and that it is credible and coming from a third party. Specifically, it is the unresolved negative emotions. We carry that in our bodies. That's part of my work. Let me help you. Our hurts that have the power to create the physical conditions that we recognize as cardiovascular disease, tension, inflammation, high blood pressure, and clogged arteries. This mind body relationship was documented recently in a landmark study at Duke University, directed by James Blumenthal. He identified long term experiences of fear, frustration, anxiety, and disappointment as examples of the kind of heightened negative emotions that are destructive to the heart and put us at risk. I think that's important now with what's going on in our world, domestically and internationally, what we've been exposed to after living through a pandemic, how that has changed our lives, the lives that were lost, the wars that are going on right now, the political climates, the concerns, the economy, everything. We're in this heightened state. I'm going to do a little caveat here, and this goes back to the physical products. The company I'm affiliated with came out with a very special collagen, a liquid hydrolyzed collagen with 10 different peptides in it. It is very special. But most of us that have been taking our products have been taking an activator, which is the core product of our line. And it reduces oxidative stress, free radical damage in our body by 40% in 30 days. And I'm allowed to say that by the FDA. This is true, science backed. Studies are on this product. In fact, 28 of them on our National Institute of Health medical library. And you can contact me and I'll show you where they are. And when we started taking the collagen, our scientists saw mega results. And they said, okay, but this population that's been introduced to the collagen first has also been on our core activator that started our company. So they immediately started a study. And what they found was that using these two products together affect your fibroblast cells. I didn't know we had fibroblast cells. I didn't know what they were. I'm like, okay, what's blasting over here? But so many doctors are involved with our company. And they were like jumping up and down. They couldn't contain themselves. They're like, oh my gosh, wait till you hear this study. Wait till you hear this result. We can't tell you yet, but wait till I mean, you don't see doctors acting like that. I'm talking about pathologists in Canada. I'm talking about cardiologists, internal medicine. These are doctors that are acknowledged as like the top 50 doctors in their state, etc. And I'm like, wow, okay, what is this? I'm not a medical professional, but I learned from all these people. And they said, well, your fibroblast cells are not supposed to be on all the time. They really affect all of these diseases. And because we have been um, uh, so stuck in anxiety and fear and all the things that are going on in this tense environment we're living in, our fibroblast cells are like on high alert all the time. They're not meant to be that way. They're meant to be a blast. The tigers chasing after you in the forest, run, and then they shut off and your body calms down. So those two products together, it turns out, and we have a patent even on these two products together from the scientists realizing this within our company, because it calms the fibroblast cells down. And what all of our doctors, they are independent doctors with their own practices. I'm not talking about internal doctors that are on our um, uh, board and such. I mean, those are too, but these are independent doctors with their own practices, their own states, in their own countries. They said there's very few ways that you can affect the fibroblast cells. So for those two products to do that, so that's one way physically, the physical aspect that we can calm our systems down. And of course, meditation, nature walks, nature baths, all of those things are super important. And so, at the very least, Lauren says, it cuts you off from good health. So, we need to do both. That's what I propose because we don't always know what's going on emotionally. We're working hard to overcome our negative thoughts and feelings. But let's face it, so much of that is subconscious. And also, we get affected and triggered by things. This last year, I was just really affected by Mother's Day. I've lost a child. I'm estranged from another child that is keeping me from my grandson. I believe all of this stemming from a divorce over 25 years ago, still going on. And I've worked in that space. I've been a speaker and I've worked with that kind of grief. And it doesn't always go away and we get triggered. And I knew this was happening. I've walked through a lot of Mother's Day, but this year it really affected me. I think this is the amount of hype for a week beforehand of the flowers and the candy and the appreciating and there's so many mothers and fathers for Father's Day coming up that are hurting. Maybe they lost a child in the war or a war or in COVID or in a car accident, or maybe they're estranged from their own children. Maybe they miss their child. Maybe their child is suffering from a disease. So many scenarios. Anyway, it just super affected me. I could feel it. It was hard for me to be productive. I had to talk about it and be vulnerable. And I didn't want people pitying me or feeling sorry for me or placating me. It's just what is. And I knew it'll get better and I have to work through it. And then, of course, afterwards, you get the fallout of every mother's experience on Facebook that is cared for, loved, and acknowledged. And it's painful. Gave birth to somebody, to living human beings, nursed them for a year, took care of their boo-boos. So those hurts are still in us, no matter how much work we do, it seems. Done a lot of work. I've paid a lot of money and I've done the hard work, but it's still there. Our cells carry this. We talk about muscle memory. Well, we all have a cellular memory and emotional memory. So I knew that when I was representing these products, it wasn't enough because I realized how things affect our health. So I'm reading this just a couple of days ago. I couldn't wait to share it because for me, it's a validation. Even though I know dis-ease equals disease, this is scientific proof how dramatic our hurts can be. And I never heard anyone speak to it that way, just in common language for common people. Our hurts, it's not like some philosophical thing. And hurts and the magnitudes of hurts can be different from everyone. So many times when you've had a really big hurt story, I mean, look at people that have lost several people in their family or almost everybody in their family. You can start gauging, well, I only lost one child and they lost three children, or my hurt is not as bad as your hurt. And I've had people, towards me that way. And I'm like, no, because a trauma is a trauma. Grief is grief. If it is your cat, if it is your dog, it there's not a measure of how much that means to you and how much love you have for that person or animal or grief of a situation of a life change. It's so many things and we don't talk about it enough as far as I'm concerned. And now we need to. It's affecting our health. So, he, Blumenthal's study showed that physical conditions, and think of this, what's happening right now in the United States. We just had a monumentous thing happen this week on Thursday, and it was a judgment that was brought down on a former president. So physical conditions of anger and tension can lead to problems that include high blood pressure, headaches, lowered immunity, stomach problems, and finally, heart attacks. So if you're dealing with those things, we all are to a certain degree. We have to tone it down. We have to look for different things, and I can give you some of those things that help you, prevent a heart attack, prevent a stroke. I mean, this is serious stuff, folks. So I take and use a lot of these physical um, products backed by science, plant-based, peer review. I mean, really, really find good things that are for our body in unique ways. In fact, Big Pharma's trying to copy our science, and ours is plant-based and clean. So we're eliminating toxins going into our body. But of course, if you're a big pharma, you have to come up with synthetic versions of that because we have patents. Anyway, it is really, really important. And my website is Wellness Matters, You Matter. And exactly that you cannot have one without the other. The emotional is affecting your physical, and your physical can really affect your emotions. Like my hip started hurting during COVID. I was doing a lot of swimming, and I affected a tissue between in my hip. And you know what? It changed a lot of my lifestyle. And did it make me a bit depressed? I can't do a lot of the things that I wanted to do right now. Yes. Am I searching for other ways of healing that? Yes, I am. And I'm not my 100% person. So that affects my emotions. And then look at Mother's Day and other factors that are happening. Maybe their financial affect all of us. Maybe it's a marriage. I want to tell you about two things that I'm beginning to implement right now. Okay, I have my health business. If you'd like to know more about the product mix, it's incredible. We were just featured in Newsweek magazine. We've rung the bell on the NASDAQ twice. Aaron Brockovich is on a board of directors. This is the real deal, people. And I have two groups starting. One is called Own Your Life. Now it's for women. No matter what's happened to you, maybe you lost everything in a hurricane. Maybe you had an illustrious career and you're retired and you lost part of your identity, or you don't know what you want to do now. Maybe you're an empty nester. Maybe you just left a relationship of 30 years. All kinds of things like that. What I have found, and I didn't know, is that we create our life. We have a lot more control over our life than we ever imagined. Um, I used to operate from a victim mentality. And that's a little bit why I'm having trouble with some of the things going on in our political world right now. And I was sort of brought up that way. The martyr, the biggest martyr in our family got the most attention. So many of these behaviors and limiting beliefs start before you're even verbal. Before you even know better, you're surviving in your family, you're picking up your family culture, and I'm not judging the family culture, but that's the space that I've been brought up in, and it goes on till today because they don't necessarily know better and reward those that act as a martyr. I can no longer act as a martyr and as a victim. It does something to me, and I knew early on that I needed to be independent and be responsible for myself. And so I just had that spirit, but I still acted as a victim. And that's how I contributed to my marriage and this abusive situation that I was in, because I didn't have that worth. I didn't have boundaries. I didn't have, I had a sense of that you be loyal no matter what, and many things like that. And so we have different things that we pick up from. Maybe it's a teacher, maybe it's a relative, maybe it's a coach. So we become the people that we're around. And of course, when we're children, those people are the authority. So we think they're right. And we pick up, or they teach us, or they um, do behavior things to make us be that way, that you're rewarded or punished. And so that's the things that you pick up. And until later on, you don't realize that you are doing those things or operating from that space, or that you can change it. I know my dad would always say, that's my bit. That's how I am. So they didn't realize, they just thought that's your personality. That's who I am. And I can't change it. That's how I am. Now, there are certain things that are personality that we have, and a spirit that we have, and a desire that we have. There's so much that we can change. And just like our cells turn over all the time, we can have our thoughts turn over. So we have a lot of neural pathways, and we just like a rutted road. If you keep traveling that rutted road, you're going to be on a rutted road. But what if there's a super highway right next door that can lead you someplace faster and smoother and in a happier way, and you can get to your destination better and not all beat up, you know? We have that ability, but we're not teaching our children that at a young age. I didn't know that. I wished I'd learned it at a much, much younger age. And maybe I wouldn't have gone through some of the things I had. But of course, all the things that we've gone through lead us to where we are today. But it's a continuous journey. We're always, if you are a seeker, if you're someone that wants to do more, and have growth and expand, or get desires to change your path. And being in the business that I am, when you are in the business model that I am, you learn so many people's stories, what they wanted to change. I mean, to me, when I see a cardiologist or a surgeon, and they've given up that career because they thought nutrition really played a more important role. Like, look at Dr. Hyman. Of course, it took him getting sick to look at something like that. And to give up all of that schooling and the way that you are taught to find a better way, and that you feel like you need to bring to the masses. And so we're in this momentum now where we realize there is a connection between our emotional beings and our physical beings and our spiritual being, are the essence of who we are. Look at Dr. Perlmutter. In fact, he'd even been on our board of directors when I started with this company. And he's a neurosurgeon. And his father was, and his father's got Alzheimer's and dementia. And so he wanted to study the brain. And so Dr. Perlmutter is always talking about nutrition and clean products. So another aspect is getting on as many toxins and detoxing as much as you can. Now, can you detox too much? Yes. Everything in extreme can be difficult. But the problem here is the world that we live in is a polluted world. The soil that we grow our foods and plants in, and I can give you statistics on that at another time, we do not get the nutrition that our body needs at the same time that our body is being exposed to so many toxins in our air, the air we breathe, the water we drink. I'm in Florida. We love it to look beautiful in the landscape. So the amount of pesticides used is incredible. Overhead, the chemtrails, or they're spraying for mosquitoes, all the off-gassing of carpeting and home goods, and even the fabrics that you wear on your clothes when they're on your skin, they are off-gassing chemicals right into your bloodstream. So we are bombarded, and yet we're not getting the amount of nutrition and nutrients that we need for our bodies. And then pile on that the level of stress that we're all living in. You know, we are not supposed to be in fight or flight 24/7. And we really are. We live in a very rushed um, society. And so we really need to take that account and take it seriously and be discerning and committed that that's important. Recently, I decided that I needed to put more sleep into my life. So yeah, it sounds cool. Like, oh, I'm up at 11 and 12. Oh, you go to bed at 10. You know, that's sort of my cutoff time. And 9 o'clock is really a cutoff time to start winding down from the day. And I start my day early. So look at the things that you can control in your life. And I know that we used to think of those as very small things. They're not. They are very important processes for our body. And I'll do a talk on sleep another time. But I just had to share that with you because he also says that we literally have the ability to live much longer. He talks about the lives in the Bible, you know, it's only when we ignore the emotions and they go on for months and years or lifetime without being resolved that they become a problem because we're living life. We're going to be faced with things every day that we have to overcome. But why are we are just excited to get to the 100-year mark. They really feel like there's a lot of opportunity to live much longer. And I'm going to close this with, you know, and our souls express themselves through our bodies, okay? And while they're made of the elements of the universe, it's our souls that brings our body to life. If there's, you can see when the essence of someone else is gone. My dad was on life support, and I could tell there was no energy in that body. That body was there laying on the bed in intensive care, blown up like a balloon and in the highest setting of everything running the functions of this body, but my dad was not there, and I knew it. I could feel it. When our souls hurt, our pain is transmitted into our bodies as the spiritual quality of the life force that we feed into each cell. Ponder that a little bit. I'm going to read it one more time, and then I'm going to close. And here's my advice to you at the end, or a call to action moment. Sit with this for a little bit. Don't just end this and go right into something else. Just pause, even for 5 minutes. Pause and think about this. How are you treating your cells? And you know, sometimes our body holds on to damaged cells. Autophagy is very important, and that is part of sleep, is ridding the dead cells and the damaged cells out of our body so that they are not doing damage to our healthy cells. I mean, we take our garbage out in our homes and offices and cars. And that needs to be taken out of our body too. It's a very important body process that many people don't know about. It's called autophagy. And many times when you do fasting, that initiates autophagy. And then there are other ways that you can that are easier. Okay, here I'm going to read it again. It's our souls that bring our bodies to life. When our souls hurt, our pain is transmitted, sorry, into our bodies as the spiritual quality of the life force that we feed into each cell. Thank you so much for watching this today. Please pass this on to your friends, and I hope to see you again soon. Please tune into me. I've got lots more good stuff to come.